So is Stranger Things Tales from 85 just nostalgia bait, or is this a fun watch that expands on the lore? First off, apologies for my nasally voice. I'm still fighting off this cold, so it is what it is. So Stranger Things Tales from 85 takes place between seasons 2 and 3. It focuses on the core group as they uncover monsters of a vine-like nature that begin to appear in Hawkins. First things first, if you're going into this show expecting to get the same overall experience you got from Stranger Things, you're going to be disappointed. That's just an impossible feat. But if you're looking for something that could make you reminisce on your younger days of Saturday morning cartoons, I think some of you will find that here. So jumping into the positives, I loved the snow atmosphere in this show. I wish they did it for a season of the live action one, and the color palette is rad. You've got these bright neon vaporwave colors that really pop and just make it aesthetically pleasing. The characters' physical likenesses are, for the most part, pretty good in terms of being adapted for animation. And the soundtrack is on point. You've got that Stranger Things synth vibe, but there's also some banger tracks in the action scenes from Black Sabbath to Billy Idol and more. Something this show does that the live action didn't always do is the main groups seem to not only have equal screen time, but they all felt important. That was kind of one of my main gripes with the live action show at times. Certain characters seemed to be sidelined, and I didn't feel like they did that here. Will is also a significantly stronger character here, and it made me wish they utilized his character like this in the live action show a bit more, instead of treating him like an egg with a bowl cut until season 5. You do have characters break off into groups at times, but they usually always regroup in the episode, and that did remind me of the earlier seasons of Stranger Things. And it added for some fun character dynamics. We get to see way more interactions with Max and Lucas in this, and I enjoyed their scenes together. Some people might disagree, but I actually very much enjoyed the story here. The fingerprints of many different movies, shows, and even books are present here. There's similarities to Tremors, The Faculty, the Goosebumps books, Stay Out of the Basement, Ghostbusters, It. I could go on. Don't get me wrong, you'd need to change a lot for this to work for live action, but this could have actually been an earlier season of the show and been a successful one at that. If they did it right, I probably would have enjoyed this season as a live action one much more than the season 2 that we got. Obviously, with it being animated, it takes enormous leaps in reality in terms of what the kids can do and physics and just everything. But that kind of goes without saying with animated shows. Things tend to be exaggerated even more in them. One thing I absolutely loved about this show though, there's no government subplot in it. I mean, the lab comes into play a bit, but it's mostly just talked about and nowhere near as present as it was in the live action seasons. And it felt like a breath of fresh air to have the core group just fighting monsters. You still have the classic group coming together to figure out what's going on, talking to a teacher to learn more, using science to explain things, and giving monsters names based on TV shows and games. But I think the best part is it's a very action-packed show. Like every episode has some kind of battle or fight that's ridiculous, but a lot of the battle sequences were surprisingly fun to watch. And lastly, they do connect this to the Upside Down, so it doesn't feel totally random. But to get into some of the mixed stuff, I in no way bought that any of this happened between season 2 and 3, so it's definitely non-canon. Another thing people might have an issue with is the core group is the forefront of the show. You do get some scenes with Hopper, Steve, Jonathan, and Nancy, but it's not much. Steve and Nancy have maybe one episode where they play a role. So if you were hoping to see them in this a lot, you'll be disappointed. There is a new character named Nikki who is actually a decent addition to the group and does serve a purpose to the story, but I feel like there was way too much focus on her. I don't have as many cons on my list as I did pros, but the cons unfortunately just hold significantly more weight. While the voice actors do a pretty good job with the voices, it's still very obvious at times it's not the actors. And a big part of why a lot of us watched Stranger Things was for the actual characters and the actors portraying them. Even with some of the cadences being pretty good, Max is like pretty spot on actually, it's just noticeably not them. There's also not really any stakes in this show, which was a valid criticism of season 5, but it's all characters you know survive because seasons 3 through 5 exist. So there's just never any real fear for them. And it being written as a kid's show also plays into that. Stranger Things was a show where when one episode ended, you had to start the next. It just had you hooked and you needed to binge it. This didn't do that for me. The only reason I binged this show was because I have a cold and I have to rest. I don't think this show is going to have people needing to watch the next episode like the live action one did. You have to keep in mind, this is not a normal season of Stranger Things. It's way more geared towards a younger audience and that Saturday morning cartoon crowd. And because of that, we don't really have those dark moments, the horror, the kids cursing, the creepier aesthetic, or the heavy emotional moments that we did in the series. That is all part of what made Stranger Things, so you definitely notice that stuff is missing. The biggest thing for me though, the heart that Stranger Things had just didn't feel present in this. Yeah, there's fun action, jokes, the group naming monsters after games and TV shows, some cute little emotional moments, but the heart the main series had just wasn't present. And I think you can really only get that with those actors playing these characters. And finally, it's obvious the stuff in this season didn't really happen. This was written after, and it shows. They try to abide by some kind of continuity, but if you dig into it more, the plot holes exist. So overall, I think Stranger Things Tales from '85 is a fun Saturday morning casual watch, especially if you miss the nostalgia of those morning cartoons. But if you're hoping this is going to fill that Stranger Things void, I don't think it will for most people. It's a very safe and watered down version of something a lot of people really loved, and I think many are going to feel that way. But that doesn't mean there's no fun to be had with it.